Welcome to BizTech's Asia's hottest startup show. Our guest today is Ernest Chew, Group Chief Financial Officer at CARRO and Director of MyTuka out of Malaysia. Now, founded in 2015, CARRO is Southeast Asia's largest used car marketplace that offers a full stack of services across the car ownership life cycle and entirely online. Welcome to the show, Ernest.
Hello, Brian.
Now, Ernest, for a start, could you talk us through the evolution of CARRO from where it began and where it is today?
So I think we initially started when we saw a lot of pain points in the industry, from people trying to sell their used cars to people buying used cars. And naturally, when people look to buy and sell cars, what are the pain points of these, including financing, servicing the cars, insuring those used cars. So we looked at that and said, hey, we can do something here. We partnered up with dealers, friends, banks, insurers, and even workshops to get all these going. So I think when we first started out a good 7 years ago, I think we had a humble vision. We want to improve the experience around buying and selling of used cars. And then over time, we built an ecosystem around it. Fast forward, I think today, we've grown into a I think we pull our weight in terms of where we are in industry. There's a lot of things that can be done. But I think from an industry standpoint, people are finding a lot more trust in the used car space. There's a lot more acceptability from trading of used cars to financing of used cars, ownership, usership of used cars.
Now, which are your key markets in the region?
So today we are in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. We've also just added on Taiwan and Japan. And
so companies like yourself and CARRO have really disrupted the used car business. As you said, I think the key term that you used, which I think describes this new customer experience, is trust. So in the past, I think in many markets, in fact, globally, trust of used car dealers is probably really bottom of the pyramid. But you've changed that. What are the things that you think you've done well that have enabled companies like MyTuka in Malaysia, for example, and CARRO as a whole, as a group, to really win the trust of consumers?
I think as a starting point, I won't use the word disruptor. My preference actually is improve. Why? Because we are helping our dealer partners and friends to grow as well. Without them, we would not be in a position we are today. We trade cars with them. So in a way, we are a form of a used car stock exchange where our participants are the dealers. What has helped them is they are able to source high quality used cars from us. So to be clear, in the past, used cars are also a victim of, let's say, customers selling cars to them where it's maybe they are not great conditions. There are problems with the engines. There are problems with the structure. For instance, it's gone through an accident. For that matter, it could even be a stolen car or beyond economic repair car. So the dealers rely on us to give them that kind of service, i.e. we've vetted through and we are selling them a good product. There is a very, very large conglomerate, at least in Malaysia. They've always been interested in going to the used car space, but because the level of corporate governance is so high, they can't deal with the, let's say, the grayness and the shadiness in the used car space. But when we came in and I remember having this conversation with the global head. I said, well, we are not your competitor. We are here to help you source high quality used cars. I know you've been looking at this for at least a decade and very interested to get in. We are here to help you on inventory management, and be a helpful partner to you across the used car ecosystem. And the partnership grew from there. And I say the same thing for all the other dealers. They are now finding it incredibly easy to buy cars from us in a very trustworthy manner. So in a nutshell, we are not pushing out the dealers. We are not saying that they are not good participants in the industry. I'll say that we are, of course, there are certain black sheeps in the market, but we want to help the good ones. By and large, we want to help the ecosystem around used cars. Where there are black sheeps, where there are people who actively syndicate poor quality or simply accident cars, we actively blacklist them on our system. So people who trade in their cars, who buy cars from us, they know that our brand promise stands for quality, transparency, and seamlessness.
Okay, now Ernest, tell us today, what does your suite of product and service offerings look like, not only to the end consumer, because you have a B2B business, you also have a B2C business.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about maybe starting from a customer or dealer or corporate selling cars to us. We do a inspection service, very thorough. We then either buy it in right away, or we put it up on a platform to trade. We have the wholesale and retail channel. So wholesale basically means dealers. So dealers can actively bid on our channel. And on top of that, when they've won this car, we also provide what we call dealer financing to the dealers. So that's a very critical piece that the dealers don't get in the past. So I'll give you a couple of practical examples. A lot of dealers, they are very small. Some are private enterprises, some are mom and pop shop. They may or may not even have an audited financials. And even if they have, the balance sheet will show very little cash, a lot of inventory, where frankly, I think the banks are not well placed to value. And then if you look at the P&L, the profit margin very thin. So net of it is the banks will find it difficult to lend to these dealers directly. Now, we said to ourselves, we've inspected all these cars. They are traded and bidded competitively. No one else knows these cars better than us. Why can't we lend to these dealers who have been our loyal customer? We have the entire past payment behaviors. We know how they have operated because of our journey with them. We are best placed to serve those underserved dealer segments. So today, the dealers rely on us to provide them dealer financing when they bid cars on our platform. Then moving on to retail channel. Retail channel basic end customers, what we do is we recondition the cars to a quality where we call it certified pre-owned. It's the most stringent level of used car condition that we apply on ourselves because we want to deliver a strong brand promise that they will be buying a high quality used cars, buy high quality used cars from us. And on top of that, we said you will thoroughly enjoy this experience. If you don't like this car, you can return it to us 5 days, 7 days, no questions asked. We will provide a limited warranty on the engine, the transmission, the ECU, whatnot. Basically, the most expensive parts of the car, where if they go wrong, the value of the car evaporates. I would like to say not many others give these kind of value proposition. Now, the last thing we throw in some of our markets we give free aftermarket service. Basically, the signal here is not only are we giving you peace of mind, we actually want you to come back to service your cars at our workshops. We are not going to shy away from the fact that we sold you this car. We want to help you take care of these cars. We want to provide the absolute professional workshop after-sales service that our end customers deserve. And we have collected, at the back of it, we have all this information, whether we've traded the car, we've inspected the cars, we finance the cars, we insure the cars, we service the cars twice a year. We have a ton of information on those cars. And by the time that end customer wants to trade with us, we have the entire, let's say, history with this car. We can immediately trade without even looking at the car, maybe. Or very limited, we call it due diligence, I guess, or inspection on the car. Because we already know the car, we can price it competitively if it's well taken care of.
Now, those really address a lot of fears and pain points that consumers used to have when purchasing used cars. Basically, you've taken the fear and the panic associated. You use words like ECU and engine and stuff like that. For the average consumer that doesn't know a lot about their cars, that's one of the reasons why they've never bought used cars or shied away in the past from buying used cars. So then what does your typical buyer profile look like at My2Car?
I'll say people who are wanting to try out our service. And we've got folks as early as just graduated, to even people who have retired. Very different requirements, let's say. Let's say for someone who has just graduated, they wanted a car to get to work. Very simple bread and butter car. But they may not be able to get financing. Then we help them serve. Well, this is us serving the underserved. How do we go about doing that? So one of it is, for instance, through this Bank Walama program, we also have our own financing arm, which have been very successful in serving the underserved, but at the same time, achieve very, very low NPL that I think a lot of the banks are frankly quite shocked with. To people who have retired and also, again, one slightly different, more of a lifestyle, let's say. Throughout the entire, and they may not want to buy a brand new car. They want a high quality used car, premium, that they don't need to worry about or have to deal with, or buy a car that may break down somewhere along the journey. So what is consistent around all these things is they want to buy a used car. Of course, we say that target the demographics around people who want to buy a car online and whatnot. But even those who are not online savvy, we want to make it easy for them.
Now, Ernest, what's the age group and of the typical, when you talk about your sweet spot? So obviously you said there's everything from retirees to really young people, but who's really the 80%, and what sort of cars are they buying? Like what sort of ages of cars? Are they buying 10-year-old cars or are they buying 2-year-old cars? Tell us a little bit more.
I don't have 80%, but let's say, I think most of our cars are between 25 to 40. Mm-hmm. They are people who are a little bit more savvy when it comes to purchasing things online. They want to experience the whole online customer purchasing journey, and they may not have tried buying a used cars. So we want to convince them that A, they should buy used cars, and B, they should buy from us.
And from your inventory of direct to consumer cars, what is the median or mean age of those cars?
They are typically anywhere between 3 to 7 or 8 years. Typically, they are mostly below 100,000 kilometers. Good condition, no accidents, and we recondition them. In terms of segment, I'll say they are your typical bread and butter, where through our trading, wholesale business, as well as retail, I guess, we have a very good database that allows us to predict what cars move fast, what cars are in demand, what pricing tiers for the by and large majority of the segment. Of course, we do, what that means is we cover the local makes, we cover the Japanese makes, we cover some continental makes, we cover also the premium segments, so the entry premium segments. Those are the areas that we generally, that's where our inventory is tuned towards.
Okay, and you talked about earlier a step-up financing scheme. I think that's with Eon, I think Bank Muamalat and Eon, which is a subsidiary of DRB Highcom. Tell us a little bit more about that and what is it all about?
Yeah, so again, this is serving the underserved. So we have a lot of potential customers who said, well, I've just started a new career. I've just graduated. I don't have what the banks typically need to see from a documentation standpoint, from a salary level standpoint, to finance, say this Proton, Perodua, or other entry-level cars. But we say, well, we understand that you are early in your career. Why don't we partner, or actually we work with Bank Muamalat and DRB Highcom, who DRB Highcom, as you may or may not know, is our investor as well. So we said, let's work out something that allows these underserved segment to get proper financing, fully recognizing they are early in the career, their salary may not be very high, but over time, they will have career progression, they will have increased salary, they would have more dispensable income to service those loans. So the idea here is we provide a buyback guarantee to Bank Muamalat, who can give us, which allows them to price the risk, where they then say to the end customer, these young graduates, for instance, okay, maybe the first 3 years you pay a lower monthly installment. After the 3rd year, as your career progresses, you can pay then a higher monthly installment. And then if you go up to 9 years, after I guess the 6th year, you step up again to pay a higher monthly installment. But if after the 3rd year, you either want an upgrade or you no longer can afford that stepped up financing, you have the option to trade the car in to MyTuka. So that gives the person who is climbing the career ladder enormous flexibility, because all he wants, rightly or wrongly, is to be able to get this car to work.
Now, looking ahead, in 2020, the rest of 2022, 2023, what are some of the key trends that are impacting your business? Rising interest rates is obviously one, and the fact that the chip shortage is abating, which then will definitely impact. What are your thoughts on this?
So the last 2-3 years, we have been a major beneficiary of COVID-19 lockdown. From the entire generation of people who've never or would never want to buy cars online, to let's say, educating a generation where people are comfortable trying to buy cars online. That's a big mission. I won't say accomplished today, but it's a continuous agenda. Part two, supply chain around new cars were broken, be it the semiconductor chip shortages you mentioned, to cars stuck at ports, or cars not being produced because factories were locked down, shut down. There were simply not enough new cars coming in. But people still need to drive. They want to buy a car to get to work. They want to buy a car to do whatever is needed in their life. So used cars became very popular. So from a generation of people who in the past may shun used cars and continuously only buy new cars, we've now educated the generation that, hey, actually, used cars are just as cool. They are just as high quality as new cars. The third point I'll say here is we've also educated the banks that financing used cars is totally viable if you lend it right, and you lend against high quality used cars. You don't lend excessively against an overpriced car, and you'll be fine. So I think we've done all those things in the last couple of years. Looking forward, I think the outlook remains very strong. In fact, it's red hot still around used cars in this part of the world. And when new cars come back, the owner of the previous used car will still sell their cars. There's no point having too many cars in the porch, right? So if you bought a new car, you trade in an old car. Now, for us, that drives a lot of business. The more used cars that are traded in, the more inventory we can sell. And naturally, that drives growth. So we are not overly worried about new cars coming back. Actually, in fact, we welcome that. Because that also drives up the entire car vehicle population. That drives up the total addressable market for us.
Now, you've become a unicorn. June last year, you had a 360 million funding round led by SoftBank Vision Fund 2. There were plans for an IPO in 2022, but obviously market conditions have changed. Now, where are you at in terms of your IPO plans?
Last year, we actually raised nearly $500 million from 3 sovereign wealth funds, plus, of course, SoftBank. We've also brought on board a couple of very high quality investor base who have been very, very helpful to us. So they are both strategic as well as financial investors. I'll say they are generally patient when it comes to monetization and exit. They have not been pushing us very hard from a monetization or exit standpoint. We are grateful for them for their support. But what that means for us is we have a lot of liquidity. Also, early this year, we've raised significant bank financing, and we continue to do so. So the implication of this is, when we looked at Q1 early this year, we never said, we need to get an IPO this year. We've read that the market condition is poor. The valuation environment is poor. Why force ourselves to IPO when the market is just not ideal. We are not under that pressure. So we've always managed our, call it liquidity, our P&L in such a manner that we are not desperate for capital. We are not desperate to get IPO'd for capital. Then I guess the next question naturally will be, when will our IPO be? I always say there are three important ingredients when it comes to an IPO. First, we have to be public company ready ourselves. We need to be audited to the highest level. In this case, if we were to prepare for a US IPO, we need to be PCAOB audit compliant. So we've done that. We need a system, financial system and ERP. We need controls, we need risk, we need compliance with the various regulatory environments, and the various other things that public companies have in their chest to maintain public company status. Part two, the business have to be firing all cylinders, which we are. Now, the third point here then is, when is the valuation environment going to come back? That is a crystal ball that I wish I have. I don't. I guess from history, it takes, if we are heading into recession, it would take about 2 to 3 years before we come out of it. We need to make sure that we are there, ready to pull the trigger on the IPO if all these things are aligned.
This has been a fascinating conversation, and thanks for illuminating us on My2Car and CARRO as a whole. But before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
I'll say it's not just, I think buying used cars, it's not just buying used cars, it's buying CARRO. We are selling a brand, right? Be it you buy it from My2Car, be it buy from CARRO, you know that you're buying a high quality product, high quality used car. And we guarantee that. We give all the peace of mind that a customer expects when they buy a high quality product.
Now, thanks for taking your time to be on the show, Ernest.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Now, I'm Brian Fernandez, and we've been speaking to Ernest Chew, the Group Chief Financial Officer at CARRO and Director of My2Car, on BizTech's Asia's hottest startup show. Now, this video and podcast will be on our social media platforms, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. It will also be on our syndication partners, TV, radio, and websites. Thanks for tuning in.